Jane Westerling is the eldest daughter of Lord Gawain Westerling and Lady Sybil Spicer. House Westerling is a noble house from the Crag in the northwest Westerlands. They are sworn to House Lannister of Casterly Rock and are considered among their principal bannermen. Their sigil is 6 seashells and are one of the few remaining houses that can trace their roots back to the First Men. Jane first appeared during A Storm of Swords, the third book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. She's described as a shy girl, but pretty, though according to Jaime Lannister, not a beauty to lose a kingdom for. She is slender and has chestnut hair, as well as a heart-shaped face and brown eyes. House Westerling is an old house that descends from the First Men. Although a noble and old family, it is not rich. To better his finances, Lord Gawain Westerling with Sybil Spicer, the daughter of an ennobled family that descended from merchants. Because of the low birth standing of Jane's mother, she is rejected as a match for one of Kevan Lannister's sons. At the start of the War of Five Kings, Robb Stark, King of the North, agrees to marry a daughter of Lord Walder Frey of the Twins to form an alliance, allowing them to cross the River Trident. Jane's father, Lord Gawain Westerling, is captured by Robb during the Battle of the Whispering Wood and later held at Seaguard. During the northern attack on the Westerlands, Robb and his army storm the Crag, the ancestral keep of House Westerling. Robb is wounded by an arrow during the battle. Jane's mother and uncle encourage the girl to nurse Robb back to health. While at the Crag, Robb receives a message that his younger brothers, Bran and Rickon, have been killed by his former friend, Theon Greyjoy, who had captured his home of Winterfell. Jane comforts Robb in his grief, and they end up sleeping together. To protect her honour, he marries Jane the next day. However, this decision leads directly to the breakup of Robb's alliance with Lord Walder Frey, due to the King of the North breaking his marriage pact with them. The outraged Freys take their forces at the Crag and Riverrun back to the Twins, although a part of their strength remains with Lord Roose Bolton at Harrenhal. Black Walder Frey threatens to kill Jane, so Robb could then marry a Frey, but Jane begs her husband to be merciful, and Black Walder is spared. The couple are devoted to each other and try to conceive a child, with Sybil giving her daughter morning posits to help with her fertility. Jane tries hard to be a good wife for Robb, although she's worried about the pressure he's under as king. She promises Robb's mother, Catelyn Stark, that she'll try her best to be a wise queen and wife to Robb. On the advice of Catelyn, Jane tries to be patient with Robb and understanding. Robb, for his part, is able to smile and be temporarily without worries when he's in Jane's company. Jane is said to be anxious around Greywind, since Robb's direwolf had killed a knight at the Crag who Jane had known for many years. After negotiations, Walder Frey agrees to ally again with the Starks in return for the marriage of Robb's uncle, Lord Edmure Tully, to Rosalind Frey, as well as a personal apology from Robb. Jane and most of her family remain at Riverrun under the protection of Sir Brendan Tully, the Blackfish, as to avoid extra tension between Lord Frey and Robb. At Edmure and Rosalind's wedding at the Twins, House Frey and House Bolton betray and kill Robb, beginning the Red Wedding. After the massacre, Sir Kevan Lannister later instructs King Tommen Baratheon I to pardon the Westerlings and grant the title of Lord of Castamere to Rolf Spicer, Jane's uncle on her mother's side. This has caused speculation regarding the compliance of the Westerlings in the Red Wedding and the use of Jane as a honeypot for Robb in an attempt to sabotage the Northern Rebellion, suggesting they were always working with the Lannisters. This idea is supported when in the fourth book, A Feast for Crows, when Jane has gone into mourning, much to the displeasure of Sybil, her mother, who had been in secret negotiations with Lord Tywin Lannister. However, it can't be said at what point in Robb and Jane's relationship these negotiations occurred. It is reasonable to think Jane was purposely sent to care for Robb, with this outcome as its intent. Unbeknownst to Jane, the daily potions given to her by her mother prevented pregnancy, which does support this idea. Although most of the Riverlords submit to the Iron Throne, Riverrun remains under the control of Brendan the Blackfish, and thus Jane and the Westerlings as well. The siege of Riverrun is settled peacefully by Jaime Lannister, who tasks Sir Forley Priester with returning Jane back to her father at the Crag, to avoid tales that her dead husband Robb had given her a child, and thus an heir to the North. Jane is to remain unmarried for 2 years, and is given a strong escort of soldiers with secret instructions to kill her if there would be any attempt at escaping during travelling from Riverrun to the Crag. Before she leaves, Jaime notices that Jane had ripped her finely made clothes in an act of mourning for Robb and rebellion at her mother, who took away the crown Robb gave to Jane. At the very least, I think it's safe to say that Jane truly did love Robb and was not complicit in her family's actions. There's a lot of speculation that Jane may have been pregnant with Robb's child based on her description by Jaime, but later this simply turned out to be a continuity error by George R.R. Martin. Jane did not make it into the show, but much like Vargo hoped, her role is given to a newly created character that took up many of Jane's key plot points. This character was Talisa. With her, the show manages to get across the key points of Jane's story, but with Talisa, we get to see the relationship with Robb grow, and she is much more of a fleshed out character. The key difference here is her backstory, coming from a noble family in Essos, in the free city of Atlantis. We meet Talisa during Season 2, as she tends to the wounded Lannister soldiers, as well as Starkmen during the War of Five Kings, which is how Robb meets her. Over the season, Robb and Talisa then grow closer, and end up sleeping together after the news of Theon Greyjoy's attack on Winterfell and the supposed deaths of Bran and Rickon Stark. At the end of the season they marry. However, the key difference here is Robb marries Talisa out of love, rather than a sense of honour as with Jane. Throughout Season 3, Talisa and Jane have a very similar function, and we see a lot of scenes where Catelyn and Talisa try and get to know each other better. Talisa has a much more active role in the story. Northern lords such as the Karstarks seem to resent Talisa much more than Jane, as not only is she the cause of so many problems in terms of the war, she's also from a foreign land. Now, Jane and Talisa truly diverge when it comes to the Red Wedding. While Jane is left at Riverrun, Talisa attends the wedding with Robb, where she is revealed to be pregnant, but the joy is short-lived and she is stabbed and killed during the massacre. After looking around the internet for reasons for the change, it appears the showrunners felt they needed to create a character with more depth to show on screen. As in the book, much of Jane and Robb's development happens off-page. They made the changes so drastic as a way to broaden the world and introduce other free cities, such as Volantis. Allegedly, during writing of the scripts, the name of Jane Westling was used, but George R. R. Martin suggested changing it as the two characters were two completely different people. There was still a lot of theory crafting in terms of Talisa, such as the idea she was a Lannister spy, or was in fact Jane Westerling, using Talisa as an alias, but in the end, none of it came to be, and Talisa was just Talisa. The lack of Jane and addition of Talisa is something I'm very indifferent about. The key beats are there in the show, and it's nice that Talisa and Robb's relationship has more depth. I think it would have been nice to see Jane in the show, as I think the scheming of her family fits well with the political intrigue of the show, and would have made a nice twist, but I did enjoy the show's take on it.